Hey, I'm Joel, and this is how I did the thing for my cover of Rachel K. Collier's Darkshade. The first thing I did was actually I figured out what the lyrics were, and then later on she posted the lyrics on her website, and the lyrics that I figured out were not totally her lyrics, but I was pretty darn close, so sorry, Rachel. Then the next part was figuring out how I wanted the arrangement to be, so I listened to hers a bunch and just started making parts in the session view to put it together. So I knew I loved this drumstick thing that she has. So I made kind of my own stick set. This percussion sound that she's got going on. And then later on I knew I wanted to kind of hit with this fun beat, but nothing too crazy, because I still wanted it to be kind of airy. I knew I wanted to play the micro brute because I think she has it's not the micro brute, it's the step up. But I knew I could get the sound kind of close on this, and it would just be cool to play a hard synth. Just played some hardware. And I knew I wanted to play that part live during that main breakdown when it is just me singing and playing, but that when it came in on that last chorus, it would be too tricky to kind of play that at the same time and sing, so that I wanted to kind of let it keep going on this loop, or come back in this loop. Then I had fun with her box chops. I did one regular and then a low. And then I put in this high. I mapped that to a pad so that I could trigger that live. And in the actual, it is on a pad on the arteria that I'm playing in. I go back and forth about whether I want to play guitar sometimes in my live looping, because it just physically takes some time to get the guitar out and put it in my hands and play it and then put it back. But I thought it was worth it to add in. And then later on, I changed the sound in Guitar Rig to just make it sound even nicer. When I'm playing live, I don't use any third-party plugins. The only third-party plugin I did use was a key sound that was just too good to change. And then the hms, I knew that I could play those in, and I wanted to really fill it out. So the first one plays and kind of pans pretty far left. The next one comes in, pans far right. The high, oh, I timed that terribly. The high falsetto, and then the high falsetto on the other side. And the last thing are the keys. So the main keys, the same keys that I used for my cover of Heart to Break, actually, which is a combination of some of the stock Ableton keys. And then this was my one third-party plugin that I used, which was the Arturia Piano Lab, because it's just such a beautiful sound. And it was okay on my CPU. Didn't make it go crazy. The other thing to think about when I'm doing these live arrangements is when and where to put things when I'm triggering scenes. So this took a little while to figure out, is that I wanted to live loop in these keys as well as this voice and this guitar, but I knew I wanted for the verse 1 for it to cut out and just be these keys, and that wasn't gonna happen if I were to loop them in this second scene. So I had to put them in the third scene, then I could go back to this first scene and have them stop and have these not stop, and then I can bring them back in with the drums. Then bring in the box chop, then bring in the bass, and then finally bring in the drums. And when I'm figuring out those arrangements, actually I fully write it out and draw a map for myself of what's going to happen when, and I do a lot of erasing, and sometimes I do multiples of these. And then when it comes time to actually play it live, I also draw out a map of all of my MIDI mappings. So I have my main keys in my synth on a chain selector that I'm switching back and forth on. I have my Vox Chop sample on a pad. to turn the all off except for the synth, I have a pad that I've mapped a bunch of the stops and starts to, and same for when I trigger that scene 6. Sometimes it's just easier to do it on a pad that's a little bit closer than on the push. And then all of my faders, like I have, at one point I'm playing with the resonance and the frequency on the keys on an auto filter, and master verb and delay at the very end, and then my main Vox, delay, and reverb too. So yeah, that's how I did the thing. I hope you enjoy.
I won't reveal it.